All right, you want to say 3 times a charm? I'm telling you, this is the 3rd attempt at this. Good Lord. Thank you for patient people in my guest next to me here. We're going to get to him in a second. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a pre-recorded of one of the first, hopefully of many, Dogman Eyewitness interviews. My name, of course, is Michael John of Michael John Paranormal Ghost Stories. And, of course, I am the co-ghost host from my partner, who, of course, is inconspicuous by his absence. The man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. His name, of course, is Dale. High Spirits. Quickly, together, we are the voice of the paranormal, the voice for the paranormal, Windsor, Ontario's own, the Paranormal Voice. And I first off want to say thank you to everybody tuning in to this interview right here, right now. The TPV Nation, from day one to day now, the creeps, the freaks, the weirdos. Because if it's not for you, we can't be who we are, doing what we love. And that is this right here, right now. I want to say, of course, on behalf of my kiddies, Luna Bobuna and Piper Nooch, thank you so much to the one and only Shane Michael Crisp. And a special note of thanks to Krista as well of Blondes and Booze. Together, they have really helped me out. I'm going to adjust mine as well here, just a hint of. I want to say thank you again to Shane Michael Crisp and Krista of Blondes and Booze, because without them, I wouldn't have had a chance to get an opportunity to have this guest next to me right here, right now. You want to talk about a credible Dogman eyewitness, kiddies. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a former Marine, 10 years of service in the Marine Corps. Thank you for your service, sir, first and foremost. Secondly, thank you for taking time for us, the TPV Nation, Windsor, Ontario's own, the Paranormal Voice. Today, you are a Dogman eyewitness, not once, but twice. And the second time, you shot him.
I did.
Welcome, Mark Fluharty. I didn't get there. Mark Fluharty, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Finally.
And again, thank you so much for being patient. We got the bugs out, man. I'm trying to run this behind the scenes. Normally, the big man Dale always takes care of that. So it's my turn to finally cut my teeth, if you will. So we're going to get right down to it, of course, Mark. Real quickly, let's get a brief bio about yourself so the fans out there know who you are, please, and thank you.
All right. Well, I'm a former U.S. Marine. I made my living back in the day. I'm 60. Keep in mind my age right now. I'm 60-some years old right now. But back in my day, I made my living most of my life prospecting, cowboying, exploring, hunting, and fishing in the backcountry. Anywhere in the Southwest and in the Southern United States. As an American born and bred, I've lived most of my life in the United States. The United States is my home and always will be. Right now, for the past 20 years, I've been living in Wales, United Kingdom. In the city of Cardiff, actually, to be precise. I've experienced and seen many things in the wild country. I've had many close calls, and which has given me the knowledge I needed to write the book that I did that you can see on the bottom underneath my name there. And that's it. I started writing this book. I told people before on a last interview I did, the reason I started writing this book was I was having horrible nightmares. I don't know which some people call it PTSD. I don't know. I don't think I suffer from that, but it ain't from seeing a werewolf. I don't think. But I had the first one I saw. It did terrify the hell out of me because I thought I was looking at a werewolf, right? Lon Chaney type of thing. I thought, shoot. Sure. And it frightened the hell out of me, and it stuck with me over the years. And it was the reason that I kind of went on the tandem that I went on, because I wanted to know what the hell it was that I saw, because I just could not. My mind just could not. After that sighting, my mind just could not accept that was a werewolf. I mean,
yes, sir.
Yeah, I just this people thing about people changing into werewolves and stuff like that. That's for kids in movies in Hollywood. I don't believe in that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean common sense. You got to use common sense when dealing with this. So I was looking for an explanation, and it was 1989 when I seen this thing, and it's been kind of my thing for since then. I mean, I don't know how many years that's been. It's been a lot more than I want to count right now. But that thing set my life in motion towards this book and
Yes,
everything
sir.
done. Uh, I That's kind of where my past has come from. I didn't know that you could go talk to people. I didn't know there were people that you could that had other people that had seen this thing. I mean, my whole life I had lived pretty much on my own, thinking that I was the only one that's seen this. And I tried mentioning it at one time to somebody, and they just laughed me off like I was some idiot. And from that point on, I kept my mouth shut. I just, okay, I'll find out for myself. I've been pretty much on my own, doing things for myself my whole life. So this was no surprise. So that's when I started digging into these things and researching them and finding out. And I never went to nobody. Like I said, I didn't know North American Dog Association or whatever, Dogman Association project or anything like that existed. I didn't know any of those people were around. Beautiful gal here in England that I wish I'd have known existed at that time, because she's a darling. She helps people, and had I known her back then, I would have probably went a different route. Because after that, my route was killing these things. I just thought you they're dangerous, and the things that I've seen and heard about, people getting ripped apart, people disappearing. David Paulides, I probably don't pronounce his name right.
David Paulides of Missing
David
411.
Paulides,
Yes.
exactly. That man, he's the one that opened everybody's eyes to people going missing in the world.
Very interesting man. Yes.
And I've looked at many of the things that he's talked about, and my explanation is that's what it was, Dogman.
Okay.
Because they prey on humans.
Yeah.
We're just we're just meat to them. And anybody that thinks that we're not, we're fools. Anybody that thinks they don't exist are fools.
And it's fortunate. You had someone to reach out to. I mean, Shane Michael Christmas, who got me in contact with you from the North American Dogman Project. Great guy, an ambassador to anything to do with Dogman. You know what I mean? Very knowledgeable, very humble, just an all around good. He's a gentleman and a half. I can't speak highly enough of this guy. Also, now for myself, I buy a good old algorithm on YouTube. I was listening to some Bigfoot stories. I was at work one night. It was a weekend, so I always play stuff in the background to listen to stories, and I love the real stuff. I don't like fiction. I'm not a fiction guy. So the algorithm had snapped over to what was called Dogman Encounters Radio. All of a sudden, there's eyewitnesses sharing stories about these creatures you're referring to. Vic Cundiff is the host. Vic Cundiff is a gentleman who helps countless people going through the PTSD of these terrifying encounters. He's one gentleman. Shane Michael Crisp is another. And you mentioned about a lady in the UK that also does the same thing, correct?
Yes. I'm hell on names because of my age. So I forget things so quick, and I shouldn't forget her name because she's one of the biggest ones here. And in fact, Shane just did an interview with her. But she is she made it her goal to begin and help people that have these kind of problems and see these things, because you do experience something. I mean, yes. On the day I saw what I saw, and I say what because the only thing it can be is a dog, man.
Yes.
And when I saw it, it stood up in front of me on the other side of a river, and it was hunting a deer that had jumped out in front of me. I could go into that whole story if you'd like. I could start.
Let's do it. I was just gonna say, yeah. Let's just get her done, man. Please. I'm chomping at the bit myself, so please.
All right. Well, I was catfishing. I was going onto a river called the Black River, and I was looking for a nice desolate place from town that I could find where nobody would be around and where I didn't think many people would fish. So I got out in the sticks away from town, and the river is, it's funny. You drive up, and it's got a big embankment that goes up, and you can drive down that embankment, and then the embankment drops down to the river, and it's all, you got woods on one side, and you generally got farmland on the other side. Generally, wheat, corn, whatever the hell they're growing there. And I found a place that had a little clearing down at the base, way outside town. So I parked my truck up on the embankment, went down, got my gear, and was going to go catfishing for the night. And it wasn't dark yet. It was just getting to that point, that dusk, that twilight hour, that magic hour. And so I was getting my gear set up. I had got there a little bit, had some live bait. I was ready to go. I just sit down and popped open a can of beer at that time. And yeah, as one does. And but and I noticed some rustling across the river. And I didn't think anything of it, but I started seeing it. It started getting louder and louder. And next thing I knew, a deer jumped out into a little patch of, wasn't really clear, but it was just a small patch. It wasn't over its head. It jumped out there, and I could see it. And anybody that's hunted deer can look at a deer and know when a deer is being hunted. You can tell. There's no way you can't. I mean, I think anybody can. But it was obvious that it was scared and frightened and fleeing for its life. But I just watched it because I was curious of what was hunting it. I thought maybe some dogs are chasing it, because that's what's been my experience, is dogs chase deer. But this thing stood there in a few minutes, and it just jumped and ran off. So I thought, I went on to baiting up my pole and fishing. And it wasn't even a minute, just maybe less than a minute. This other thing jumped out, and it looked like a big, huge dog. That's what I thought, because it had fur all over it. It's on all fours, but it was huge. I'd never seen anything that big. And I knew it wasn't a bear. I mean, I know what a bear looks like. I've seen bear in a while. This thing was just a big black dog. That's what I thought. And so I just sit there in my chair watching it, and I didn't have a really good view of it, because it was turned kind of at an angle away from me, sniffing the ground, for that deer. And it turned its head towards me. And when it turned its head a little bit towards me, I could see right away, that's not a dog. And right then I knew, what the hell is that? And I stood up. And as soon as I stood up, it haunched up.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and it haunched up. It didn't stand up straight. Everybody talks about seeing these things standing up straight, Tarzaning and all this stuff. It stood up. It just stood up, haunched. But as it haunched enough on two legs, and I thought, my God. And to be honest, I didn't think anything. I looked at that thing, and my skin crawled. I can't explain this, because I've never been afraid of anything. I'm not scared of nothing today. I'm not scared to die. I'm not scared of death. I'm not scared of people. I'm not scared of any beast. But that thing, it put a fear in me that I've never felt before. I stood up. It's where I stood up. I stood up. As I stood up, it started to stand up, and I just froze. I've never experienced that. It was like I couldn't move. I was frozen, and I was that terrified. I mean, I can't explain that kind of fear. And I just couldn't take my eyes off that thing. But it just stood up, looked around at me, looked over at me. I seen it kind of grinned a little bit. They say I don't know that it's grinning more than it's showing its teeth. Okay. You've seen a dog, when a dog shows its teeth when they start to snarl at you.
Yeah.
But to me, that's the same thing, and that's what it did. And it just watched me, and I could see out of its, it just stared at me. And a few minutes later, seconds later, it just dropped back down on all fours and leaped off towards that deer. But that brief encounter, like I said, if it wanted me, it could have come across that river and I wouldn't have moved. I'd have stood there and let it just eat me because
Yep.
I was that scared of it. I didn't know I'd never experienced that kind of fear. And I've been shot at, and I've never experienced that kind of fear.
I was going to say, with all due respect, I mean, 10 years as a Marine, you're describing some of your Marine duties earlier on in this interview. For you to sit here and say, admit you were terrified, frozen, basically, more or less. I mean, that thing could have had its way with that. It could have gobbled you up in a heartbeat. That speaks volumes, Mark.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's not something I'm proud to say to anybody that I was scared.
Sure.
But I was. That thing terrified the living hell out of me. And it took me, when it left, it took me a few moments just to realize it's gone, and just to come back, and then when I came back, I was like a just shaken mess, and I had to take, and of course that ended my fishing trip. I wasted no time putting that crap. I don't know if I left anything or not, but I wasted no time putting things in the truck and climbing up that ridge and saying, "See ya."
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I can't imagine.
And I went and I went and got a hamburger at a little restaurant I knew, and I said that I knew the guy. He was a Navy guy, and we were good friends. And I was sitting there talking to him, and I started to tell him about what I just saw and see if he maybe. And of course, he started laughing at me and thinking that I shouldn't be drinking so much beer out there. All this, and so from that point on, I just it stayed in me. I just said, no, I ain't telling nobody about this. This is
understandable.
I mean, I don't want nobody thinking I'm crazy. And today I don't care. Today you can say kind of anything you want. I mean, I am crazy. But yeah, what I saw was the closest thing I could see was on my book. I put a picture on my book of what I thought I saw. And I found this picture. I was able to manipulate it and make it look as close to what I saw as I can. And basically the same reeds and everything right there. That I did the whole river scene on that book cover. That's what I first saw.
Your book, Werewolves or Dogman. For our viewers, where can they purchase one of these books?
You can buy this on Amazon.co, Amazon.co UK in the US or Great Britain.
Anywhere Amazon has a website,
you're
on there, you're running.
Yeah.
My man.
Just look up my name, Mark Fluharty. If you can't find it by title, I've heard people have had trouble getting it because they're finding it. And just the main thing is just look up my name. If you look up my name, you'll boom.
So now, when you were writing the book, and we're going to get to the second story in a minute here, when you were writing the book, I mean, that must have taken you back. Like, I mean, you got to relive it. I mean, even sharing the story right now, it's got to give you some sort of a hint of, to be modest, a hint of trepidation and all those emotions and feelings right back live and in color again, as if you're there again, especially to write it out in a book. How was that?
Well, when I had an interview with Shane, I said a few things, and the reason I started writing this book was I was having nightmares. I was having horrible nightmares. I mean,
yes,
whatever it was contributing, but there were werewolves in my nightmares. And again, I don't believe in werewolves. I'm not going to say they don't exist because that's challenging the Lord. The Lord liable to bring forth one, and I have to break out my silver spear to find out. But yeah, I keep weapons. I make my own weapons, and I put silver on them just in case the Lord tempts me. I don't like to. I'm not a guy that likes to close the doors, and say, okay, sure. No, that doesn't exist. Because as soon as you do that, then the Lord's going to come by and say, oh, well, I'm going to show you up.
You're right. Yeah, careful.
Yeah. So no, I don't close the doors, but
okay,
in my mind, they don't exist. So and I didn't know anybody was around that I could talk to or share any of my stories with. And I was having having nightmares. And up until I wrote this book, I didn't know. I mean, I just finished this book last year or something like that, and I didn't know until I finished that book was research and started finding all these things, and
Yeah.
so. But I wrote the book. I thought, well, the best way to well, I guess what happened was I started hearing about people dying, getting killed by these things.
Yes.
I started hearing about people that have died, and I've been on a few sites where somebody has died. I've been in the woods when people have been killed and seen some of the things that's happened. But of course, that they're very hush hush. You don't hear
Yes.
any of them come up and tell you it's a dog man.
Nope. Don't dare do that. No.
No, they'll blame it on some rabid squirrel or a chihuahua or something.
Right. Yes. You're 100% correct.
I mean, they had a gal here in England who was killed, ripped apart in her home, and what they blame it on? Corgis. Do you know what a corgi is? That's just a dog about yay high.
Yeah, I was going to say. So now, what is the? This is interesting. Let's segue into this for a minute. She was, and I've heard that where, you know what? It doesn't matter where you're at. I mean, I've heard stories of in Detroit, Michigan. We're the border town, Windsor, Ontario. Across the river is Detroit, Michigan. There's a woman telling a story. She's I don't know what 6th, 7th, 8th floor of her apartment building, right in Detroit, Michigan, looking out, and there's a dog man under a light that she saw 20 years earlier as a young kid. It had sniffed her out somehow. That's her theory. But there it was. So not only that, but I mean, there's also stories of Dogman inside people's homes. I mean, not just breaking in. I mean, again, it's all theory, and I love that word. I mean, these guys are interdimensional, just like Bigfoot.
Well, I don't know that I believe that. I mean, I don't know that I believe they're interdimensional. I think from what I've experienced and what I've seen, they live right here on this planet. Interdimensional, that's saying they come out, they're time warped, or some people say, well, I've heard the theories about, flying saucers are dropping them off. Well, now, think about that for a second. Use some common sense and think about that. What race in this universe is going to carry an army of dangerous creatures like that just to come and bring them to Earth to feed them? Imagine the trip with those things on board ship. How hostile that could get.
That would be interesting.
It would be an interesting trip indeed.
Excuse me.
No, I don't believe that. I mean, I believe in UFOs. I know they exist. I've seen them, but it doesn't mean that they're bringing dogmen and dropping Sasquatch in every neighborhood. No, I don't. I believe dogmen have always been here, and later on we'll get chatting about that, and I'll tell you my reasons why.
So now, how did this dogman allegedly get inside the house with this woman?
It doesn't take much to get into a house. It depends on the house. I mean, burglars do it every day.
Right. Yeah. Now, what was the background? I mean, was it unprovoked? Was there some sort of a history, some sort of a buildup?
Okay. Yeah, please. In England, that happened. The door was open. The door was found open. She was found with the door open. They didn't go into detail too much. In the UK, you can't get a lot of. In the United States, you can go get a police report that tells you all the little details. Yeah. You can't do that here. They don't give out those details for whatever reason that they want to call. You can't do that. Anything you have, any details you get, you find from friends you might have in the police force or people that is actually there and witnessed and seen things, and then or if you're happening on the site, the scene itself. Yeah, you're not going to get it from the police.
No,
their hands are tied when it comes to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's a whole other rabbit. I mean, there's so many directions we can go with just what we're talking about. Please continue on.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's a lot different over here than it is in the United States. I mean, I don't even hunt dogmen over here because they don't allow you to carry a gun. And only a fool would go in the woods hunting dogmen without a gun. I mean, I carried a BAR. I wouldn't go in with that.
What is that?
A Browning automatic rifle.
Okay.
You ever see it in some of them old World War II movies? They got them big, huge guns that just boom, 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 boom. Well, them were 50 caliber rifles. Mine was a 30-06, and it would just boom, boom, boom as fast as I could pull the trigger.
I bet.
And that's what I shot one with. And You don't, if you're going to go into, I tell folks all the time, if you're going to go in the woods hunting dogmen, just stop and think, what are you hunting? Well, you better arm up to hunt. Same thing as if you're going in and hunting polar bear. Would you go in the woods with a 30-30 hunting polar bear? Hell no, you get eaten. You're not going to. You want to have firepower to stop. Would a 30-06 stop a polar bear? One shot won't, but maybe 10 shots will.
Yes.
And that's what I can do with my BAR.
Okay.
I can put shots as fast as I can into them. And with a 30-06 is as small a bullet as I want to ever use in the woods with fighting anything like that.
So let me ask you, I mean, going back to your first encounter, the size of this creature, if you were to guesstimate when it was stood up, when it did the best it could there.
I would say 8 to 10 foot if it stood up straight.
Oh, now there's different variants. I have a little bunch of sketches behind me, and there's some Dogman variants. Now, going that way, I mean, there's skinny ones. There's the ones with the big hump on their back, and their head seems to be inside their chest. The just jacked up, juiced up, steroided up version, etc. What would you describe this one as?
It was jacked up a bit. I mean, I've seen things that were far more jacked up. I've seen men more jacked up, but
okay.
It wasn't no slouch by any means. I mean, you could tell it was rippling. But it wasn't covered in fur from the chest. It had fur on its chest, but not like what a dog does or something like that. It was just bare, pretty much bare, just really thin furred, and then hair all over his ear. I don't recall a hump being on its back. I just remembered when it stood up. Like I said, I was petrified when I seen that.
Sure.
Yet I just kept looking at its face, its teeth. That's what I was looking at.
Next question. Yes, the eye color. I mean, I've heard a lot of amber eyes. I've also heard some people say orange. Right? The traditional, most stories I hear are amber eyes. Were they amber or were they a different color?
Yellow. Yellow is what I could tell.
Yes, sir. Glowing, basically, or
it's glowing as much as they would in the light. I had my lantern on, so
yeah.
I suspect, yeah, it could be. You could say that. I mean, most animals' eyes glow in the dark from light. So okay. Yeah.
Now, again, different variants. You've got some people have described Doberman heads. Some people have described shepherds, huskies. Oh my God, wolves, traditional wolf, right? Even hyenas, if I'm not mistaken. What did this one look like?
Wolf, 100% wolf.
Without doubt, you just.
No doubt. I've seen wolves in the wild. I know what a wolf looks like.
I believe you. I believe you.
There's
for
no
sure.
question.
Now, what about smells? Did you notice any type of odors?
No, but it was quite a bit of distance from me. It was maybe 10, 15 yards from me on the other side of the river.
Okay.
I want to say further, but I forget how far yards is. I mean, that's quite a ways.
Sure.
15 yards on the other side of the river. That was, you're not in the wind. It's hard to. I didn't smell anything. I mean, I didn't even smell the deer coming up, and my nose really wasn't trained for that. I had I had bait on me, live bait fish and stuff like that around me. So I didn't smell anything that wasn't fishy. But
yes, sir.
It was at least 8 to 10, at least 8. I'm going to say 8 feet. I'm just going to plead modest about it. It was 8 feet tall at least, and it was semi-muscular, black, and it had long, stringy like hair, not like so much like a dog. Like my dog's fur, it's nice and soft and you can pet it. This thing it's just like it was stringy. It had long, pointed ears, big, huge teeth, yellow eyes. And
now the height factor alone. I mean, forget the appearance. I mean, that's knocking anybody out of their senses in a heartbeat for sure. But I mean, the size, just the size alone, huge. 8 to 10 feet. That is ridiculous.
It was huge. I mean, the hind legs on that thing was monstrous.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've never seen an animal short of a bear with that kind of hind legs or horse. I I mean, they were extremely strong.
Now, let's go a little bit off the beaten path there. And I've heard so many different stories. And now I've heard a story, and I mentioned it to you when we were chatting on Facebook about the super soldiers. I believe it was in the 50s, about 40,000 of these guys. They dropped off in areas like the land between the lakes out in Kentucky, 170,000 acres of forest. Oh my God. You know what I mean? And who knows where else these super soldiers were dropped off. What are your thoughts on that?
Nonsense. That's all nonsense. Okay. And I don't mean to disrupt anybody's belief if they believe that, but the reality is that's nonsense. The United States, you're saying that the United States government created these things? No, that's nonsense. They can't even agree on how to write something and share with another department. You think they're going to, and they're being God creating things like this? No. Now, what they might do, and what I touched on in my book, they might be studying these things. They do have compounds all over the United States that's underground. And it wouldn't surprise me, and while it doesn't surprise me, I know for a fact, because of a witness of mine that I got information from for my book, told me that they study these things, that they have places where they take these, and it wouldn't surprise me from my military experience. It wouldn't surprise me that they're trying to train them to be, to use in the military, in some type of military thing.
Oh, wow.
That wouldn't surprise me. Now, to say that they're dropping them everywhere, why would they do that? I mean, why would you create something that's that deadly, and then just, okay, well, I got an idea. Let's turn it loose in Yellowstone so they could eat people. It don't make sense. Even our, you would think even our government's got better sense than that. But the thing is, these people are black operations organizations.
Yes,
they work beyond the government. The government doesn't have anything to do with them. In fact, there's legislation in Congress today that trying to outlaw these different organizations, to make them, so forcing them to come forth and show what they're doing, share what they're doing with the government and the public, and they're talking about doing it with some teeth. They're not just talking about, okay, we've made a law, now you got to do it. They're talking about coming in there with Marines or whatever and taking what they got and all this. I mean, it goes beyond just Dogman. I mean, we're talking UFOs. We're talking a lot of different things.
Well, it's interesting to me. I mean, the lore that's out there, werewolf, the fairies, the fae, as they call them, mermaids. A lot of these things we're told that this is all fiction and BS and nonsense and all that. The more, the world opens up, the more the world is woke, as the phrase goes, woke. A lot of this stuff does exist. And that's the crazy part. They've been trying to hide it. And God forbid you talk about it too much. All of a sudden, there's the Men in Black showing up to shut you up some way, shape, or form. I mean, you know what I'm saying for sure.
Yeah, I believe, I've looked at myths, and I've talked, the only person I talk to is my wife. And, we discuss these things quite a bit. And there's always, to me, something that's described in legend, like, let's say dragons, or let's take fairies, the little fairy things. To say they don't exist is foolish, because somebody didn't just off the top of their head just say, oh, well, I'm going to make up this story about dragons and little fairies.
Exactly.
Yes. It just, they've been around. There's been tales. They may not be as we see them we see them in our mind today, but somebody saw something and gave it a name.
Oh yeah.
Or started calling it something. And this is how these things have gotten on. So there might be, would a dragon exist? Probably. Maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe the dragons that in the mythology were those dragons right now, that they're the big dragons around Australia, and that, and the whatever it is way down there. Those big, you know what I'm talking about. I can't pronounce their name. That's on the tip of my tongue.
Yes.
Oh, that's why. That'll happen.
So let's go now to your second encounter.
Oh,
if we could, please.
Well, I was deer hunting or elk hunting, whatever it was I was doing, and I was on a trail. I usually hunt. I like everybody else. I'll hunt in the morning. I'll have a place that I'll find in the morning. And when I go hunting, I'm not like these people that go hunting normally, like normal people. They just get on their four-wheelers and their pickup trucks, and they just go out to a place and we're got one camp after another, after another, after another, after another. Well, I go where there ain't no camps. I take my horse, I go deep into the woods, I set up camp.
Oh my God.
I mean, I go where there is no people. And
you go alone.
I go alone. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Why not? Hey.
Why not?
But,
okay.
Yeah. And I always get what I go in for. Always. I've never come out without. But this one particular time I was, it was going on midday, and I had been set up in one area and I hadn't seen anything. So I thought, well, you know what? I got up, started walking around, and I found a trail. And I seen some fresh tracks running that that were probably there a couple hours before I showed up that morning. So I said, I'll just track this elk or deer, whatever it was. I forget now. I think it was elk I was hunting. I'm pretty sure it was elk. But don't hold me to that, because my memory's all messed up when it comes to.
Fair enough.
But it was either, I'm pretty sure it was elk. But I went hunting, and I thought, well, I'll just track it, because most hunters that hunt elk and deer at that time, they don't hunt during the day, because they go into the thicket part of the woods, and they just lay low until the evening when they come out. Well, I thought, well, I'm going to track this elk down, and I'm going to find out where it's laying at, and maybe I can jump it. So I was tracking it, and I come up along this ridge, following this trail. And probably 20 yards from me, everything just came alive all of a sudden. I mean, this big thing jumped out of it from there. It was like a little ravine right there, and it just came crashing up over that ravine, up onto the trail in front of me, about 20 yards from me. And instantly, I knew what it was. And my arm, I walked through the woods with my shoulder right there, my rifle in my shoulder, just right ready to pop up and fire. It's just a Marine Corps habit, and I do that. And that thing jumped there, and instantly I seen what it was, and it turned towards me, and just as it turned towards me, I had already pulled the trigger. I started pulling the trigger, and I think I hit it twice in the chest. I seen fur flying, I seen blood fly. It dropped to the ground. It let out a huge hellacious roar or cry, and that's what it was. That's the only thing I could call it for, a cry. And as it fell to the ground, and I was going to cap it some more. I wasn't even going to walk up. I was going to throw some more into it, but just in that heartbeat, it jumped back over the ridge, and I could hear it crashing through the brush, and just blood trail falling right behind it.
Oh my God!
And I went up to where it fell at, and there was blood there on the ground, a big puddle of blood right there where I hit it. Fur, a little bit of patch of fur right there. And I looked off, and I just said, nope. I didn't go. I said, no, I ain't going. Only a fool would go in after that. And
right.
And that was it. I mean, I assume that it died further down in the bush somewhere, because I didn't miss what I hit. I mean, I'm a really good shot, and I know I hit it square in the chest. So it didn't die that instant. But if you've ever shot a deer in the heart, they don't drop either instantly. I've shot deer and had their hearts blow apart, and they'll jump and run up 50 feet before they even drop. And this thing here, I've never seen anything move so fast. It just boom. And I've seen mountain lions in front of me, 5 feet in front of me, that I'm surprised. That jump up from the ground, and as fast as I'm looking at them, they disappear. This thing moved faster than that. And I've never seen anything move that fast. I've seen armadillos get up and boom, like that. I used to think they were the fastest creatures on the ground, because how fast them little buggers can move.
Okay.
But this creature, I mean, I seen it leap into the air, and it was just that quick gone. Yeah.
Now, number one, yes, they are known. They are lightning fast. So many people, they can't describe countless stories. Just gone in a flash, literally, man. Speed of light almost. You could dare we say it like that.
Yeah.
Now, in comparison, let's do the stats on this one now. In comparison to the first one, 8 to 10 feet. Muscular, definitely, did some push-ups and some sit-ups for itself. Now, what about this one? What did it look like?
This thing was probably Arnold on steroids.
Okay.
It was big.
Yep.
He was big. He wasn't black as he had some black fur on him, but he had more of a reddish brown fur and some gray on its back.
Yep.
It was definitely a Dogman. I mean, I didn't waste time just studying it. My instincts told me to shoot it. And that's what I was there for. I mean, that's what I carried that BAR for.
Yes.
I didn't care to kill deer or elk. I mean, I could come in with 30-30 or something like that, 302 or something, kill elk and deer.
Okay.
But I carried a BAR because that's why. Those things are why I carried that in the woods. I mean, being a prospector, I used to go around, testing the ground for gold, and I always carried a 45. But after that event, when I first seen that thing, I never went in the woods without a 45, without my BA. I bought that BAR shortly after, and I carried it everywhere I went. I didn't go fishing without that BAR sitting beside me. I mean, yeah, that's what those things will do to you. They'll make you either wake up and protect yourself, or you disappear. You become one of those people that just disappear.
Yeah, literally without a trace, right? And there's so many stories like that, and it's just alleged. I mean, it could be there's so many cryptids we don't even know about out there yet, on top of Dogman. Now, let's go back to our conversation on Facebook Messenger and your theory on where Dogman stems from. What's Dogman's background, please? Very, very interesting, by the way. Can't wait to hear.
I'm gonna open my book up here because I've got all that stuff here highlighted. Okay. I got to trying to figure this out where they came from. First, let me say, when you research Dogman, a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't find nothing about Dogman." There's very much stuff about Dogman to go in researching, and they'll be right. They'll be right. You won't find anything researching Dogman past maybe 20 years, if you're lucky. What you have to research is werewolf.
Okay.
Werewolf is what they've been called for. I mean, since the Greeks were in power, they've called them werewolves.
Wow.
Yeah, it goes back that far. And there's all kinds of names for them. I mean, they'll call them. They've got. There's so many different names. You got, of course, today we've only been calling them Dogmen for 20 years. That hasn't, 20 years before that. Back in the 50s, you'd have said the word Dogmen, and then what? What the hell are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah, but my theories was that. They go back, if you read the Old Testament, the Bible's full of interesting things. And if you read the Old Testament, it talks about, in the beginning, it talks about all these tribes of, they only put it like evil people that weren't of God, basically. Okay. And they give them all kinds of weird fancy names, Canaanites, Benonites, something nights, whatever. Right. You all got knights on the end of them.
Yeah, you're right.
They don't describe them people. Nobody describes them. I've talked to priests about them. I've talked to preachers about them. I've talked to Jewish, whatever they call themselves, about them. And I've even talked to Muslims about them. Nobody knows beyond what those kind of people are. oh, well, they're just anti-God. They're evil people.
Mhm.
Well, what if? And I like that word right there. What if? That little sentence. What if those people back then? What if that was a big race war? Those were race wars that were being fought back in those days, the Old Testament. What if they were cleansing the world of anything that wasn't human? I mean, you stop and think. Um, Apparently, in the Bible, in Genesis, God destroyed the planet with a flood. So they
Yes.
say that we're supposed to wipe out all these things, all these evil things and stuff that was going on. It wasn't just men. And nowhere in the Bible does it say just men. And nowhere in the Bible does it say these creatures, these evil things that they're these different clans that they're fighting with are men. Nowhere. It just calls them a name. What if they were these? Let's say Dogman. What if they were the Benonites or some weird thing, the Caliphites or whatever? What if they were them?
Okay.
And they were being fought against, and it would explain a lot if we went to war, if they were trying to wipe them out at one time. It explained the hatred they have for mankind today. It would greatly explain everything that just goes on and all the killing up since then, since up to now. It would explain it and why they stay away from us. I mean, common sense. So I believe that they've been around for gosh, as long as man's walked the earth. And where do they come from? Well, if you look at the Bible from a religious standpoint, it talks about the fallen angels trying to create life and be like God.
Okay.
Perhaps they created these creatures, and that was one of the things, and others besides. And we know that they created. Or we don't know because they're not admitting to it, but that giants were real back then. We're starting to find that out today.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, we're starting to find that out, and yet even most of us already knew that. We don't need some scientists to come and tell us it's real. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what if they created these? I mean, you got Marco Polo. He was an adventurous and guy that traveled around the world. And he's well respected for the things he's written about and talked about. He talks about these dogman creatures. He calls them. I know I wrote it down here so I could try, but I know I'm going to mess up what they call it. The cynocephaly or something like that. Kind of. I know I'm not pronouncing it right. But,
it's okay. Thanks for trying.
Oh yeah. If I try to speak Welsh, a Welsh woman's going to slap me. So I better. So I'm not even going to try. But he talks about him. Christopher Columbus talked about him. Christopher Columbus, he said he's found them and that he's seen them, and that you didn't want to do anything with them because they would kill you if you landed.
That's
on
incredible.
Yeah, he said they would kill you and eat you. He said that's what they did. Marco Polo said roughly the same thing. He said they'd be a great civilization to trade with. That's what he was about, trying to find trade routes.
Okay.
But they if you tried to trade with them, you just wind up getting eaten because that's what they did to outsiders. And he described it. You see old pictures from back then of artists that tried to paint these creatures. Well, artists take liberties with a lot of things. So I picture them in robes and all this stuff? No. I don't picture none of that. I don't think if Marco Polo ever did see him, that's not what he saw. He didn't see him all wearing golden robes and what have you. But the thing is, all of these people can't be wrong. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God. Nailed it.
Yeah. If they're lying, I mean, that's the biggest lie that anybody has told throughout history.
Yep.
I mean, my God, there's too many people that have talked about him. Even in the Greek, before all Marco Polo and stuff like that, they talked about him. You can go back further. The Egypt, they talked about them in Egypt. Um,
Anubis, the god of the
Anubis,
dead.
that was a Dogman.
Yes.
Where do you think that
Right.
came from? It came from Dogman. Yeah, there's no
They
question.
saw him.
Yeah, there's nothing. These are just flesh and blood creatures that just happen to be a little bit top or higher in the food chain than we are.
Oh, absolutely.
and that's, to me, that's why, if I'm right in my what if scenario,
Yes.
they were trying to kill him way back then in those wars in the Bible. I mean, there's a lot of different things. I did some things there. The Amalekites were supposed to be, they were a group of creatures that were of beings that were almost vampire-like, and they wiped them out. I mean, this is a lot of things I found in my research. It's amazing.
Yes.
And you really got to dig beyond that that website online where you can go post everything. You got to dig beyond that. You got to go into books. You got to go into history. Yeah. You got to really go deep to find all this stuff. And even the Bible. And then you look through some of the old books in the Bible and different things, and trying to keep you from reading. And you'll find things that amaze you. But yeah, I believe that they were probably, at that time, they were probably part of that of the Old Testament, of tribes that they were trying to wipe out. And I believe it had to do with race, the cleansing of mankind, trying to make sure humans are the only ones that are left alive from that. And whether I'm right or wrong, who knows? Nobody knows. You can't know. But what I'm saying makes sense. And my life, I've learned that if something doesn't make sense, it's nonsense. If it makes sense, then there's got to be some truth to it somehow.
Yes. Okay.
And
okay.
I'm not saying it's 100% truthful, because nobody can know that. But it makes sense to me, when I've done my research and my study and all this sort of thing.
Yep.
But so it would explain the hatred they have for men today. It would explain why the hatred they've had throughout centuries, where they've killed people. If you really do some research, there's been thousands of people killed in history. Not just, if you go today back, we're talking thousands, probably tens of thousands in total of people that's been killed by these creatures. In rampages where the church has got people to call them werewolves. The church says they're demons from hell. Well, of course, the Catholic Church, they back then, the Catholic Church wants you to be Catholic. They want you to listen to everything they say. So if they're telling you it's a demon from hell, then it's a demon from hell. And you dare you challenge them.
Yeah, drink the Kool-Aid.
That's right. And that's what it's about. And we've been taught all these things over the years. And now today, we've gotten to the point where someone cries werewolf. Well, that's an idiot. There's nothing like that. That's not real.
Right.
Exactly. And I'm just amazed by that kind of mentality. I run into it all the time, where people can't use common sense. They're sheep. They got to follow.
Yes.
They got to follow the word that's they're told. They can't find out things for themselves.
No. Yeah. It's definitely a different day, I guess, to say it like that. The internet, it's affecting everyone's dopamine levels. The good old pleasure chemical in our bodies. To sit there and get a million likes on Facebook or comment. You're just all day long, or TikTok. You're sitting there scrolling. All that stuff gets you caught up in stuff it doesn't help you with your education as far as life in general, or history of amazing creatures like Dogman or Bigfoot, or the list goes on and on. Again, my guilty pleasure, of course, is Dogman. We are at the end of the hour here. Mark, I want to say thank you so much again. Number one, 10 years as a Marine. Thank you for your service. Number one, thank you for your time today, sharing your stories. Not only once did you are you an eyewitness to Dogman, but twice. And you even shot one of those things and watched them run off like a thief in the night. like it didn't even touch him basically. But you saw blood, you saw stuff fly. You clearly, what, when you shoot somebody or something, what that looks like. There's no doubt about it. What you're talking about. So now your book, one more time, the name of the book and where can everybody get it, please?
Werewolf or Dogman, Myth, Legend, the Truth. You'd be surprised at things that's in here. I mean, I've noticed lately some people, I'm thinking they've read my book because of some of the things they're talking about. But
okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of information in here. I wrote this book. I'm gonna do one thing before I go. I wrote this book for one reason, and it's I didn't care whether anybody believed me or they thought I'm crazy or anything like that. It matters nothing to me. I mean, if you think I'm nuts, I am nuts. But the thing is,
awesome.
Now that information's out there, and if you walk up on a Dogman and he just starts rips off your arm and starts eating you, you can't say you haven't been warned, because you've been warned. If you've seen this, you've seen my book, you've been warned. This book, I dedicated this book, and it's right on the first page. When I wrote this, I didn't write this book thinking I was going to get rich or make a lot of money or make any money as far as I go. If I wanted to make money, I wouldn't be writing a book. Put it that way.
Yes.
But I dedicated this book to the victims throughout the world who've lost their lives or been wounded, physically and mentally, by incidents involving Dogmen. And I hope that there is no more. I mean, that's my goal behind this book. And everything I could think of to save your life is in this book. You can get it on Amazon.co. You can get it on Amazon.com, Amazon.com.uk. Amazon. If you're an Amazon enthusiast, you can find it. But yeah, it's and I've uncovered some wild things, and it's amazing me some of the things I've uncovered. I know you're running out of time, but in the news today, they were talking about CIA and things like that involved in human trafficking and selling drugs and stuff like that on the streets of LA and everything else.
Sure.
What?
Not surprising.
Talk about that in this book long before that's come out. And it just amazed me to finally start hearing something like that when I've already mentioned it in my book of why that's happening.
Yeah.
Where do you think these people get the money for that stuff? Do you think they get, for UFO study and all these things? You think they get it from Congress?
Yeah. No, man. No, even Stevie Wonder can see that these days. You know what I mean? What's really going on? Again, the woke human race, the woke people, they see that. They see what's going on. To other people that aren't woke, we're all conspiracy theorists, and that's it. That's all. And that's where they're at, and that's okay. I get it. I guess at this point, at least there's some of us that are paying attention. There's some of us that do know what's going on. There's some of us that do have a clue, not unlike yourself. Mark Fluharty, a pleasure. Thank you for giving us an hour of your time and sharing some amazing theories and incredible stories. Oh my God. Again, for you to go through that even here right now, I'm sure it takes you back to that moment, even though you're not there, but you are there. And that makes it tough in itself. So to you, I tip my hat. And I want to say thank you to every member of the TPV Nation, all our creeps, our freaks, and weirdos, from the first member to all our members, because without them and without a great guest like Mark Fluharty and the rest and the likes, we can't do what we do. And that is this right here. But we will see you all on the other side. In the meantime and in between time, happy hauntings.